achieve a very specific goal. So can I get a sense in terms of why you're here? Because as mentioned, I'll tell you more about me, but I would also like to know more about you as well, and what you want to get from today. What I've noticed is, around this time of year, that a lot of people, anybody been on Facebook recently? You'll see that I'm big on the hand raises. There's a reason for that. I don't want this to be a lecture. I don't want this to be me talking and you just passively sitting and listening. What I'd like is for us to have a little bit of fun as well. Is that okay? Yeah, cool. So the hand raises kind of keep you engaged. The more engaged you are, the more you use your body, the more you'll remember what I tell you. The more you remember, the more you're likely to do something with it. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Yes. The more you do something with it, the more likely you are to get the result that you want. Can I then very quickly, by a show of hands, who came here today because at some point, or when you would like this year, more money in your life? All right, it's a good start. Who would like then to get to the point where you are completely and truly financially free? If your arm's not up, why are you here? That's what today's all about. I want to show you how to get to a place where you are completely financially free. Today, of course, that vehicle for getting you there is property. And that's what we're going to dig deep into. Everybody up for that? Yeah. Everybody up for being fully engaged for one day? Yeah. Yes or no? Yeah. All right, cool. Your energy is fantastic, Roy. Thank you very much for that. It makes it so much more fun for me. I, just very, very briefly, over the last, coming up to almost 2 decades now, which kind of gives you an idea of how old I am, but I've been sharing ideas with people ever since, when I came out of university in my 20s. Anybody else go to university, by the way? Yeah, I had a lot of fun there, I'm guessing you did. I came out of university, had 3 jobs in my early 20s. I got fired 3 times. So I realized that working for somebody else was never going to be my path. So I went off and chose a different way of approaching my life, a different way of making money. Even though I'd grown up in an environment where my parents were very much work hard at school, get good grades, then I could go on and do my A-levels, get good grades at A-levels so you can go to university to get a degree, so you can get a good job. But if you want to get to financial freedom, is a job a great vehicle for doing that? No. So I need to find something different. But of course, having been fired 3 times, having realized that I wasn't meant to work for somebody else, I thought I should start my own business. So I did. I started on Monday. By Friday, I was a multi-millionaire. Does it ever happen that way? No. Is work involved? Yes. Absolutely. So today I'm going to share some ideas with you, and then I'm going to also encourage you to continue this journey with us. My mission in life now is to, over the next 10 years, I want to impact 1 million people. I want to change the financial destiny of 1 million people over the next 10 years. So I want to act as a catalyst. Everybody remember chemistry? Catalyst is something that impacts, makes a difference, but the other side of it is I'm sure I will be changed by it in terms of the response I've had so far. So I want to make sure that I can encourage as many of you to get on this journey and get to financial freedom. 20 years ago, after being fired 3 times, I was inspired to attend a seminar, not dissimilar to this, and I went on it and I started a journey for myself. Now along the way, I faced a number of challenges. Here's the one thing you might want to write down, because if you're under any illusion whatsoever, I guarantee that if you genuinely want financial freedom, you are going to face challenges. Even with all the right knowledge and the right skills, will you still face challenges? Yes. What will allow you to overcome them is having the strategies and the mindset to solve the problem. There's, he's died now, but there was a wonderful philosopher called Karl Popper. I don't know if anybody's read any of his books, but one of his books, which I suggest have a quick look at, is called Life is Problem Solving. So everything you do in life is all about solving problems. The better you are at solving problems, the more great results you can have for yourself. So that's what this is about. So I got started, and because I knew nothing, I thought if I was going to start a business, well, let me ask you first of all, if you're going to start a business, what's the most important thing you need? What was that, sorry? Capital, potentially. An idea, yeah. Commitment, knowledge, absolutely.
A team of members.
A team, without a doubt. Persistence, ultimately. See, you guys are way smarter than I was. I thought the most important thing was where my office was. So I got an office in Leicester Square.
Oh, God.
You're quiet. Because I thought, well, if you're going to have a business and you've got an office in Leicester Square, then people have always got an office in Leicester Square, he must be good. So that's what I did. I got an office in Leicester Square. And when I moved, the first day I moved in, it was basically, it was a room, it was a tiny room, so obviously it's London, real estate's not cheap in London. Tiny room, grey walls, so they'd really thought about the colour scheme, and a desk not dissimilar to the kind of desk you've seen here. And it had a little phone system that, for the time, this is going back to what, late 80s, early 90s, for the time it was state of the art. So if you rang at 9 o'clock in the morning, it'd give you one message. If you rang at 10 o'clock, it'd give you a different message. If you rang at 4 o'clock, it'd give you a different message again. The one thing it never did for me, of course, ring. In 8 months, guess how many clients I had? None. Yeah. And here's the ironic thing. I was really academically great at school. So my teachers thought I was smart. How smart do you have to be to go for 8 months paying the rent on an office in Leicester Square without having any money coming in? You're now thinking, why the friggin' hell do I want to listen to this guy? He's a dunce. So anyway, 8 months in, the phone's not ringing, things are going really badly, and I've been paying the rent on my flexible friend. Which got to the point where my flexible friend didn't have any more flexibility. So I learned a couple of things that day. I rolled in that morning, and I sat there going, I'm stuck, I don't even know what to do. You know, there's, in terms of what goes on in our head, part of it is there are things that you know, there are things that you don't know, and there are things that you don't know you don't know. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The things that you don't know will kill you. There's an ancient expression that says that ignorance is bliss. No, it's not. Ignorance is pain and lots of it, and continual pain until you go from don't know what you don't know to at least knowing what you don't know. If you know what you don't know, you can do something about it. If you're oblivious to it, what can you do about it? Nothing. It's not even on your awareness. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, yes or no?
Yes.
So today is about me putting you on the right path. So that you get to that place where, like, in one day, you're going to master all the skills and strategies you need to use property successfully to be financially free. In one day. Is that going to happen?
No.
No! If you think it is, then, you know, this is the start of your education, because it's not going to happen in a day. You don't master anything in one day. But I can put you on the right path. I can make you aware so that you know the things you need to master. That will get you going where you want to be. There's an Arabic expression that says no matter how far down the wrong path you've gone, turn back. I want to get you on the right path. So the last 20 years I've been sharing ideas with people. I've had the opportunity and the privilege to go all around the world speaking. I have met people in pretty much every English-speaking country on the planet. And guess what? As human beings, we all share the same things. We all share the same fears, and we all pretty much share the same desires. But 20 years ago when I started, when I looked at the stats, I'm big on research and stats and things like this. When I looked at the stats, roughly in the UK, out of every 100 people, around about 1 or 2% would retire financially free. 1 or 2%. Fast forward to today, 2019, beginning of the new year. Guess how many people out of every 100 retire financially free? About 1 or 2%. It's not changed. Why? Mindset's a massive thing. Yeah, I mean, think about it in the sense of when I went to school, the internet didn't exist. Or if it did, it was only used by the military. The World Wide Web didn't exist. Yet today, opportunities, massive opportunities. This country has become a real hub for the world. It's a very attractive country from an investment point of view for all sorts of people. The number of opportunities available have just grown exponentially. It's exploded. But less people are taking advantage of more opportunities. Why? Because they don't have what's necessary to get them there. Today, I want to put you on the path to get there. So you become aware and you start recognizing these are the skills I need. This is the way I need to think about it. And hopefully along the way as well, I'll share some stories to inspire you. I'll share some of the people that I've met along the way. like what's been really cool about getting fired 3 times is I had to think differently. So at the end of that 8 months, I went in that day and thought, I can't do this anymore. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm basically screwed. What do I do next? Now, I'd signed a 12-month contract to stay in that office. So the first thing I did was rang the office managers. Actually, if you go to Leicester Square, I don't know how well you know Leicester Square, but the office is still there. The services offices, they're still there. The company still exists. So I rang the office manager and said, I haven't got the rent. I need out. And she said, well, you signed a contract. You need to find a way. And I said, look, really, let me talk, I need you to understand that I am out my depth, completely screwed. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm asking you as one human being to another to discuss at least another option with me. So she went away. She rang me back about 5 minutes later and said, okay, you're cool. We'll let you out the contract. So I learned something very valuable that day. Human beings, when we talk to each other for real, can be very open, very compassionate, and very willing to help. I want to help. And secondly, I discovered that actually, if you learn the primary skill, you can do pretty much anything in life. In my opinion, one of the primary skills, you can discover this whole 10 set of skills you need. But one of the big skills is influence, negotiation. The ability to communicate effectively makes a massive difference. So I'm going to talk a bit about that today as well. So I left there, and I thought, okay, look, something's got to change. Now, I had started studying something at the time called neuro-linguistic programming. Anybody heard of NLP?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few of you, okay. I don't need to go into detail about it, but at its heart, there's a simple concept which I haven't been applying. Anybody ever learnt something and never used it? Come on, don't lie. So I'd learnt this concept called modeling, but I'd never actually used it. Modeling means find someone who's already got the result you want and model what they did. Understand the strategies they followed, understand the skills they developed, understand how they think, how they make decisions. So then I went off and I thought, okay, I'm going to apply this. I'm going to go find people who've been successful in business. And then out of that, I started to become aware of property as an investment tool. So then I started looking for people who've been successful with property, and I started modeling them. And so my journey began there. Now, I've had some highs, I've had some real lows, I've made some major mistakes in my life. I've made great success financially twice in my life. I managed to lose it twice. And on the 3rd round, I had a friend of mine said to me, you know what, the next time you make it, keep it. What a concept! So this time around, I've kept it. So I'm going to be sharing things with you. I'm also going to be sharing with you a system that's developed by a guy called Aaron Curry. Aaron, you'll see this picture on the poster outside. He set up the Insight Group. They've been running for about a decade or so. But he's been a mentor to me as well. And he's really his system. I would say I'm very big picture by nature. As in, I like to look at blue sky thinking, ideas generation in that respect. Aaron's much more detailed, process-oriented. I'm not by nature. But by necessity, I had to understand and develop a liking for process. It's like if these are the steps of the recipe, and this was what gives you the chocolate cake, then follow the recipe, you'll get the cake. If I give you the ingredients but you don't mix them, are you going to get the cake? No. If I give you the recipe but you decide to mess with the recipe, are you going to get the cake? No. So I had to learn to stick to the process. So if you're like me, if you're kind of entrepreneurial in nature, then you might find some of today challenging because I'm going to give you a process and you've got to stick to it. Don't mess with it until you've made whatever you need to make for your goals. Then do what you want. Once you're financially free, go play with it a little bit. That's fine. But not until you get there. Do we have an agreement on that? I'll give you the steps, you commit to follow them. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Cool. There's, I don't know. I'm really talking, aren't I? Yeah, we're obviously attracted to each other. So, I don't know if you know this, but McDonald's, a big franchise, obviously, I think everyone's been at McDonald's at some point in their life. It is a franchise. You know who they don't want as franchise owners? Entrepreneurs. You know why? No, because entrepreneurs want to mess with the system. They think they can do it better. That's me by nature. I always think I can do it better. I can't, because I stick to the process. Okay, so I'm going to share some ideas. All right, so now we all agree we want financial freedom. That may be different for each of you. So Jaden, as an example, I don't know what your definition of financial freedom is. Let's say it was £30,000 a year, for example. And Jane might be, I'm really cool with that. If I've got £30,000 a year coming in, then that takes care of my lifestyle. That allows me to do a few nice little things through the year. I'm good, I'm solid, I'm golden. Whereas Michael might say 30,000 a year, I can't live on that, I didn't pay for my sandwiches. He might say, I need 100,000 a year. That's pretty cool. If you've got 100,000 a year coming in without you getting out of bed, would that be pretty cool? Yeah? Yeah, a little bit of enthusiasm, mate. Yeah, 100,000, yeah, it's not so bad. Not worth getting out of bed, mind, but it's not so bad. So I'm going to share with you, from a modeling perspective, strategies, ideas, skills, philosophy, ways of achieving 100,000 a year passively from property. Who'd like to sound of that? Okay. That's what we're going to be focused on today. I'll tell you more about Aaron as well as we get into this. I think it's important to understand the Insight Group. I think it's important to kind of understand where they're coming from, their level of credibility in the sense of what they've achieved and what they've achieved for their clients as well. I think that's important. And really, I guess one of the things that I want to do today, because what I've noticed is from speaking to so many people, from coaching so many people, you begin to see patterns. So human beings follow patterns of behavior. And so at this point in my career, I probably spoke to tens of thousands of people, certainly over the last 10 years, all over the world. And you see the same thing. People come in and they say, you know what, I want financial freedom. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. But how many actually follow through and do it? Left to their own devices, left on their own. Most people don't do it. The biggest thing, or I would say one of the key things I suggest you write down, because you'll want to remember this, if you want to achieve a result which is exceptional, and by exceptional just means it's not what the majority of people have achieved, then you want to get around people who have achieved that result. The single biggest thing, once you've got skills, once you've got strategy, is environment. Get around those people. There's an American, I guess motivational speaker might be one of the titles for him, but he's passed away now, a guy called Jim Rohn. Anybody heard of Jim Rohn? Yeah. Yeah. Now, I like his work. His work's still available, you still listen to his material. And I would recommend that you do. It's worth putting decent stuff in your head. But one of the things he talks about is that your income is a reflection of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. So you might want to look at who you spend time with. Now, I'm not suggesting that you ring your friends up so you can't be my friend anymore. I'm not suggesting that at all. What I am suggesting is expand your group of friends. 2014 was just after the second time I completely fucked everything up and lost everything. I had to start all over again. So I was in South Africa. I'd never been to South Africa before 2014. In 2014 I went 3 times. Phenomenal country, amazing people, obviously had their problems and still have problems and they're still solving them. But I went out there, I got invited to come and share some ideas with people, and I was doing an event, and because of the fact that I was there at that time, one of the speakers who was also on we did like a little mini tour, Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, beautiful country. And we got to Johannesburg, and I hadn't met everybody else that was coming on this little tour, so all new friends really. And I was expecting to see a friend I hadn't seen for about 15 years. He said he was going to come, and I'd lost touch with him. He'd been in Canada, he'd been in other places in the world, so I'd lost touch. But he was going to be in South Africa, and I was like, wow, I've seen him for like 15 years, it's been really cool to catch up. So we get there, and unfortunately, he's ill. So he hasn't come. But he sent one of his mentors, his primary mentor, decided to come in his place. Now his primary mentor is a guy called Errol Abramson. You can check him out. And so me and Errol got talking. I knew nothing about Errol. So when I first, you know what, like we make first impressions about people from how they look? Imagine a 68-year-old man who hasn't looked after himself particularly well. Who has an interesting taste in clothing, loves bright colours, and never stops talking. That's how Errol is. And he's about yay high, a little bit shorter than I am, a little bit older, he's 68 now. By his own admission, he hasn't looked after his health. But here's what he has done. He is a multi-billionaire. He is the most phenomenal entrepreneur I've ever met in my life. So as I started to get to know him, we spent a week together to get to understand the results he was achieving. What do you think I wanted to ask him? How? But more importantly, based on getting around the right people, not only how, but how do we stay in touch? How do I get in an environment where you will advise me, guide me, mentor me around the businesses that I want advice on? So we became very close friends. He's like a brother to me now. We've known each other since 2014. Get around the right people. Life doesn't always work out the way you expect it, but you can direct it in terms of achieving the goals that you want to achieve. And there are things that will happen that you cannot explain, that you didn't predict and you can't plan for. I never predicted meeting Errol. I never predicted meeting Aaron, but I did. But it's those situations, those opportunities that come up. And when an opportunity comes up that's going to make a difference to your financial life especially, what do you want to do? Take it. Be ready for it. Does that make sense? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. All right, so let's get a little bit into this. Let's get started. So we know we want to get to financial freedom. Financial freedom is going to require you to think differently, act differently. You are going to have to work, I guarantee that. There is nobody makes a passive income passively. You will have to work in the beginning. Now here's the other thing though, it does get a lot easier. Like anything else, once you get started and you start following the right path, the right recipe, it will get easier. But there is some work involved. Where you are right now, well you came in today, I don't know your personal situation right now, but maybe, by the way, who's employed by the way currently? Show of hands. Okay, a few of you. So maybe you're employed, you're working for somebody else. That's great. Maybe you enjoy your job, maybe you don't. Most people don't tend to. But you're employed, and maybe what you came here for is you want to find a way to get away from that. Though I think one of the things I've noticed as life has gone by chronologically, as the years have gone by, is that I recognize that actually money is important to live in a certain lifestyle. But what's more important than money? Time. Like yesterday's gone, you ain't getting it back. Who had a good Christmas? You ain't getting that Christmas day back again. It's gone. Money replenishes. You can always make more money. There's always a way to make more money. Because we live in an environment where that's possible. You know, we don't live in a third world country. We have an incredible level of support in this country, and we have various opportunities that aren't available to some parts of the world. So you can always replenish money. You can't replenish time. So maybe you're employed, maybe you want to get out of being employed so you can have more control over your time, so that you're in charge of it, you get to decide how you use it. That's cool. Maybe you're at a later stage in life. Maybe you're already comfortable. Perhaps you followed and were successful with the original plan that came out after the Second World War, which was work hard in a job and pay into a pension. The idea of a pension, of course, is that it makes you financially free when you're at like 65, 70. That's a long time to wait for it, in my opinion. And when it worked pretty well. Then the 90s came along. Who's old enough to remember the property crash in the 90s? And it was a genuine crash. Me too. And what happened, of course? A lot of pension schemes wiped out. Because they had a lot of money invested in the wrong kind of property. They weren't diversified enough. So it crippled a lot of people. And of course today, what, a couple of years ago I was talking to some people at like a little party thing. And we'll talk later about doing joint ventures. Who like being able to raise like £100,000 on demand. Who'd like to be able to do that? Because that allows you to get to more deals. We'll talk about that later. But I was at a party, started talking to these people, and you know, whenever you're at a party, somebody will always ask you, what do you do? So at some point, invariably, somebody asks me what I do. Even my kid, my eldest son, Harrison, he's 12, so he's just started the senior school. And a few days ago, he said to me, Dad, what is it you do? Because all they've seen through the years is, I've predominantly taken them to school, I've predominantly picked them up from school, because I wanted to do that. Because here's what I know about time. Today, my children are 15, 12, and 11. Tomorrow, they'll be 20. Will they want to hang out with me then? No. So I want to make the most of those years. So I know time's important. So I've taken them to school, I've picked them up from school. So all they've seen is, like, even when they were younger, it's like, how come you pick us up from school? Why doesn't Mum pick us up? Well, she does sometimes. Sometimes she comes with us. Sometimes she's off doing other things. But I was one of the few. I mean, I don't know why. It's still a bit of a pattern. But it tended to be mothers that picked children up from school rather than dads. So I was one of the few dads. But I'm grateful I did it. And I'm very grateful I had the time to do it and was able to do it. So anyway, maybe you're at a late stage in your life. Maybe you've got equity in your property and you want to leave a legacy. We have a situation now which is fairly unique. It's called the sandwich generation. The sandwich generation are the people who reached almost retirement, were fairly lucky with their pension, or more importantly, more accurately, they've got equity in their home, significant amount of equity, because property has been going up on average about 7.9% over the last 80 odd years. So you've got significant equity, and they might have young children who are just entering the workforce, 2021, and they want to help them do what? Get on the property ladder. So therefore they release equity to help their children get on the property ladder. But of course what's also been going on over the last 40, 50 years especially, medical science. So their parents may still be alive. But what are they going to need? Care, support, help. So they've then got to provide for that as well. So you find people caught in what's called the sandwich generation. They're caught between elderly parents, who they need to look after, and children who need to help get on the property ladder. And more often than not, it'd be nice to say, well, they release equity and they're all comfortable. That's not the stats. The stats say that these people are releasing money they can't really afford to release. So they're increasing their own costs and they can't really afford to increase their own costs. But of course, we're parents, what do we want for our children? The best. We want to help them. So that's what's also going on. So maybe you're in that situation, you want a way out of it. I'm not going to ask you if you are in that situation, but if you want a way out of it, make sure you talk to me today. Make sure you listen closely to today. Make sure you take lots of notes today. And more importantly, if I can encourage you to continue this journey, get on this journey with me today as well. Because I can solve that problem for you. Or maybe you are kind of going, well, you know, I've got some property. By the way, who's got a few properties already, investment properties beyond your own home? Okay, a few of you, all right. Maybe you've got a few properties, so you kind of started the journey. What you will notice as happens with property is there are people who've got none, they're just starting out, and they obviously like today, you come in today, you know more about it. You will meet a lot of people who started property from an investment point of view who've got between 1 and 3 properties. Now that's fine, that's all cool, but they get to about 1 to 3 and they stop. Why? Well, I'll share with you why today. But if you want to get to true financial freedom, typically you need somewhere between 8, 9 and 10 properties. So 3 is a good start, but it doesn't get you all the way there. But you'll see this, it's a pattern. You'll see most people do nothing. I guarantee they do nothing. What holds people back more than anything else?
Fear.
Fear, completely. Because if here's where you are and there's financial freedom, what's in between? A gap. So most people go, you know what, I'm going for financial freedom. So they take a step towards it. How do they feel in the gap? Fearful, uncertain. Well, men of course don't do fear. Men do stress. So they feel stressed. So what do? They go back and go, well, you know what, it's pretty cool here, I'll stay here. I will share as well. I'll go off on tangents a little bit, but I think it's useful and relevant. By our nature as human beings, we are not wired for financial freedom. We are hardwired for survival. Not happiness, survival. Because you begin to realize actually it's not about you and me, it's about the species overall that has to survive. So we're pretty much inconsequential once you've had kids. So we're wired for survival. So if you're wired for survival, your brain's going, well, we're pretty cool, we're alive. Why do you want to change? But if you set a goal that you haven't, by its nature, a goal means something you haven't achieved yet, does that require a change? Yes. So you're going and telling yourself, I'm setting that goal, I'm making it happen, and your unconscious mind's going, stop that. I ain't doing that. The sun's shining, I'm alive, don't rock the boat. So you've got to overcome that. That's why, look, if you just wanted the knowledge of property, I'm pretty sure you get most of it out of a book. If you wanted to learn how to fly a plane, I'm pretty sure you get most of it out of a book. But does that mean you're going to fly a plane? No. Human beings are not rational. We are not logical. We are emotional creatures. So part of my role, the reason you're here today and didn't decide to just go on the internet or read a book, well, you get flawed knowledge on the internet, that's the problem with it. But the reason you're here is like to get you to that place. So I want to get you across the gap. I grew up in a working class environment in a place called Wythenshawe to begin with, and if anyone's been there, it's in Manchester. Have you ever seen Coronation Street, the series? That's Wythenshawe. So I started there, that's where my early life began. My mother remarried, so I never knew my dad. My mother remarried and we moved to a place called Rochdale. So really in the heart of Lancashire. So my parents, very working class, very much, their whole thing was to get me out of what they'd done. Like, my mum was the first person in her family to buy her own home. So my grandparents had always lived in council homes. So that was progress. Does that make sense? So her parents were happy because she owned her own home. To them, that was more security. Read survival. So then, of course, what my mum wanted for me was a better lifestyle. And from her point of view, that meant work hard, get good grades, get a better job. Now, of course, when I lost 3 of them, and she's like, well, you got to go get another job. I was like, well, I don't like jobs. Well, you got to get a job, how are you going to pay for things? I don't know, I'll find a way. I'll start my own business. What do you mean start your own business? People like us don't do that. My dad, when I was 10 years of age, told me something very interesting. And it took me a while to get over it. And he said, people like us don't become millionaires. Now, he obviously never did. But if you start with that thought, will you ever even try? Of course not. You'll never seek out the knowledge. You'll never find out what's needed. I met Errol. And does Errol come from money? No. Errol was an orphan at 14 living on the streets. He got a job in a restaurant 4 days a week. If you're an orphan living on the streets, why do you want a job in a restaurant? Food. You get fed. So he suddenly had food 4 days a week. The other 3 days he ended up parking cars at a golf club for very wealthy people. So Errol came from that and became a billionaire. Is that someone you think you could learn from? Without a doubt. Errol started in property. That's what's really interesting. And then he built his first business after he built his property business. So, today then, I will cajole you. I will hopefully tell a few stories that inspire you. I will kick your butt to get you on the path to financial freedom. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
I need a bigger response than that. Are you okay with that? Yes. I'm glad you said yes, because I don't care. I'm going to kick your butt anyway. Because I know you need it. For like 20 years, tens of thousands of people, the patterns are all the same. Most people will do nothing with it. Don't be one of them. There's a guy, I forget his surname, Robert. He's an amazing investor, like trading on the stock market type investor. I'm a big fan of listening to pretty much anything that's going to help me and listening to people who've been successful in any field, not just property. But I was listening to him, and I listened to this interview. Actually, it was interviewing Tony Robbins interview. Anybody heard of Tony Robbins? Big American guy, big T from California. He was interviewing him. It was a great interview. But at the end of it, Tony asked him one simple question. He said, what advice would you give to the average investor? And you know what he said? Don't be average. What does the average person do?
Nothing.
Nothing. Don't be average. Today, my role is to help you not be average. One final thing. I know somebody looking at me going, get on with it already. I get that. But this is important. This is the foundation. One other thing. It's January. It's New Year. If you've been on Facebook, you'll have seen the ads for Buy My Planner. Make your life a success. New year, new you. Most people will buy a planner and don't even know how to plan. It's a skill in its own right. So they buy a planner, it looks nice, it's leather bound, it smells great. But does it mean it's that they're going to achieve more this year? No. So, today, I believe you're fortunate, I believe you're meant for a purpose, and I believe I'm going to kick your butt. Alright, so, format of the day then. Right now we're in session, obviously we've started. We'll probably take a break about 11:15, somewhere around there. Then we'll come back and we'll do the second session before lunch.